everyone, welcome to another video. For this particular segment, I thought it would be interesting to kind of dive into something new that I haven't really talked about, and I thought would be an interesting segment to have sort of on my channel, and that is the topic of traveling. Now, I've had the fortune to go and visit a lot of different places. Um, Inside the United States as well as outside the United States, and I kind of wanted to share my experiences and kind of give you an impression of what I thought of these places and how they kind of resonated with me, and maybe certain things that I wasn't particularly a big fan of as well. So kind of sort of a review of a particular location that I went to within my lifetime. And for this one, I thought it would be interesting to go back to one that I went to when I was a child, and that was Yellowstone National Park. Things that I could say that are definitely not only positive but breathtaking is the level of scenery and wildlife that you get to experience at this park. I think Yellowstone is one of the older parks, national parks within the United States. See, in case you're unaware, there's state parks, which again are by the state that you're in, and then there's national parks, so they're more on like a national level, I guess. I don't know if that's because it's the size maybe of the park as well as the maybe influence and the environment of the park that makes it distinguished as a national park as opposed to a state park. And it might also be the funding as well to keep these parks as beautiful as they are. But yes, Yellowstone's scenery in particular is really interesting because not only is there forest and mountains and all different kinds of animals like buffalo and deer as well, I believe. But there is also geysers in particular. Now, in case you don't know, geysers are kind of like volcanic, kind of just liquid puddles, so to speak. And they're very hot, and they warn you throughout the park that, yeah, you do not want to go really close to these things because they will burn you. And I don't know if they could kill you to a point, but they probably could because they are very hot. So you cannot bathe or even go near these things. These things are really dangerous. But they are very beautiful and very in different colors and sort of shapes as you go around looking at them. Because there's like different kinds of rocks that you'll kind of see within the liquid, the hot liquid, and it just creates very interesting and unique patterns, and they are all over the place. So it's not just Old Faithful. In particular, Old Faithful is the more famous geyser that's in Yellowstone. There's tons of geysers everywhere throughout the park. So you will see that throughout if you choose to go. They are everywhere and come in all different shapes and sizes, and they are hot. So you can look at them, but obviously you can't touch them or do anything to the point where you're significant. You can only see them from a certain distance, and you obviously can't touch them. So I went during, I believe it was around more so the summertime, and I would recommend going probably around that time only because not only do you get to see the geysers, but you get to see more so of the scenery. Again, the animals I think are also more. There's probably a little bit more variance to the animals during the summertime as well. The buffaloes will get in front of your car, so just be prepared for a lot of herds to just come by and be like, hey, I'm just gonna go in the middle of the road here and just stay. They're kind of like cows in a way. They just walk wherever they want to walk because it's a national park, and it's really all about the animals. So the animals don't really have, I guess, really restrictions. So just be aware that the animals kind of, and particularly the buffalo, just like to walk around randomly wherever they want. So that can end up leading to them maybe stalling the roads at times because they like to get in the middle of the street. And sometimes they'll come really close to your car because they're curious as much as we are, I guess, of them. So they'll come by your car and kind of just like look at you, and they're there. They're probably the most common animal you will see in Yellowstone. They're just everywhere, and they come in, again, mounds of herds like cows. So, and they're just grazing everywhere and just kind of slow, big animals. So just something to be aware of, and something definitely worth taking in, because it's not every time, I guess, you can really see buffalo because they only are in certain parts of the United States. Um, and they seem to be really well taken care of. This park seems to really maintain their health, and I think largely having to do with the fact that they are given an extensive amount of territory to just kind of graze and roam around and do whatever. So the geysers in particular, they do, not only do they just kind of sit there and boil, but eventually sometimes they kind of explode and create this mountain of sort of hot water that goes on for a certain amount of time and then stops. So be aware of, when the timings are for when they go. Old Faithful's the most famous one, and again, that one goes off fairly often. So that's something you definitely don't want to miss if you go to the park, is to at least experience a geyser going off. Because again, it's sort of like a volcano, but not really. It's just hot water spewing out. And it's very big too, the geyser. So it is a little bit overwhelming at first just to see like all this hot water just spew out. And it's not something that you get to see in any other park or really any other place in the world, I would imagine, really. So, it's quite fascinating, and I think definitely worth seeing as well. And again, just the general scenery of the mountains, the forests, and all that is also very, very pleasant as well. And there's like hikes that you can take, and some hikes they have like sort of pathways and things like that. So there's more so flat hikes, and obviously there's more advanced hiking for the wanderers out there. But again, there's a lot of variance to the park, and you can kind of pick and choose what you want to experience out of it. Now, the only thing that I will say that's deeply, unfortunately, bothered me about this park, and it's really not the park's fault, and it's really nothing to do with anything the way the park is managed or how everything is laid out. It's just the geysers are kind of, they are beautiful and they are enjoyable to see and to kind of witness, but they smell unbelievably awful. Like the stench that they give off is very, not only uncomfortable, but very, it just makes you feel sick, like the smell as you're kind of walking through and witnessing a lot of these geysers. Um, I think depending, I don't really know what because the interesting thing is some geysers didn't bother me as much as others, and it might have to do with the fact of what kinds of um, uh, rocks and sort of minerals were sort of mixed in with the hot liquid that I think gives off the smell. I think it's something to do with the sulfur, if I'm not mistaken, that gives off the really intense smell. But the smell and just the air that you breathe is just, oh, it can be very uncomfortable at times, and it can be very nauseating too. Um, and it can make you sick, and I think it did make me sick on that trip. I remember walking, and then I just had to go and pull over and find something to where I could release, unfortunately, something because that smell was just so awful and so just everything about that whole atmosphere of being around those geysers at times was just sometimes it was very hard to manage for me. Just the level of how it just smelled, and again, it's kind of like a mix of like really bad rotten eggs and just on top of that, it smells like it mixed in with like it just smells like chemicals, like just very bad chemicals. Like it's that kind of a smell. It's sort of like you're walking through a gas, like just literally a gas chamber or something. Like it's just unbelievably uncomfortable. You feel like you're in a even though you're in an open space, you still feel like you're in a confined area just because of just the nastiness of the smell is just it's just very 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 uncomfortable. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. And it's unfortunate because I wish I could have handled it better. And I wish there was a way to make the smell not as bad, but it was just horrible. That part was just like I had to just throw up at certain points. Like the smell was really really hard to take at times. Um, and there'd be times too where like I would be walking around and I just couldn't enjoy it anymore because of just how awful that smell is of those geysers. Like just unbelievable. Like ugh, just nasty. So I would definitely consider when you're going to see this stuff to be aware that it is going to smell and it's going to smell really bad. And if you start feeling sick, just just leave. It's the only way you can comprehend and move on from it. Just leave. Um, and maybe not have something big. Maybe if you go out to see the geysers, maybe just have something light and go out and see them, and then once you're done seeing the geysers and you don't plan on going seeing the geysers anymore, then have like a bigger dinner or something like that. I mean that's how I would maybe have approached it differently, but I mean I had no clue when I was little, when I was a kid, how awful that was gonna be, but it was pretty it was pretty awful. So just be wary of that. If you ever decide to go to Yellowstone, that the geysers will smell really bad, and it's sometimes um, it's sometimes not worth walking an extra 5 minutes. If you just start feeling bad and feeling nauseated and uncomfortable, just leave. It's the best thing to do. But beyond that, that was really the only thing that really prevented me from fully enjoying the experience. Um, I think it's worth seeing uh, if you are interested in seeing these kinds of things. If you're interested in seeing something that's not really traditional of national parks, which is geysers and also buffalo, because again, you don't really get to see that in every single national park within the United States. So again, it's one of the greats. Definitely, I think worth the time and the energy to go if you can. I would just be very weary of these geysers because they smell really bad. They it's it's a smell that can make you feel very uncomfortable. And the unfortunate thing is a lot of these geysers again are very big, and it's not like you're just walking around and you're seeing a couple of puddles here and there. It's like some of these can be as like big as like a little mini pond, so to speak, you know. So it's, and again, it's all really really hot, and it gives off fumes, and the fumes is really what gives off the smell and everything. So again, that's just something to, I think, be really just weary of. It's just be prepared at that potential of feeling a little bit sick from these geysers. They're sort of a double-edged sword because on the one hand they're very beautiful to look at, very interesting in how they spew water, but when you start to smell them, you know, it's not the most pleasant for some people. At least for me, it was not pleasant. But I think that's really all I can say about Yellowstone, just generally speaking. I think it's a very, again, interesting park with a lot of variation in nature and in animals, um, and is definitely very fun, a very fun experience overall. Again, the geysers, although they have this unfortunate quality to them of making people sick, I would still recommend experiencing them if you can. Um, but yeah, I think that's really all I can ultimately say for this particular video. But I'd be more than happy to hear anyone's questions, comments, concerns. But thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care.